wins in a fight? A 6'7" giant or a 5'4" pro boxer? Can a pro arm wrestler pin a man twice his size? Or can a 5'7" basketball pro outscore a 6'7" athlete? We're testing these sports and
nice
many others to
transition.
find out what matters more, size or skill.
Starting with sumo.
So a couple of things that I noticed right off the bat, and you have to give credit where it's due. Brandon Williams, his editor, is amazing at sound design. This is really, really creative sound design that they're doing if you're looking at what's happening on the screen. So I'm going to just play a little bit. Let's listen to what's happening.
Fight. A 6'7"
That connection is a deep, booming impact, not the sound you'd actually hear were two human beings to collide. But that sound is anxiety fueling. That deep bass impact sound is an anxiety inducing, tension building sound effect. And you're going to hear it a lot more as we continue to listen to their amazing sound design.
Giant or a 5'4" pro boxer? Can a pro arm wrestler pin a man twice his size? Or can a 5'7" basketball pro outscore a 6'7" athlete? We're testing these sports and many others to find out what matters more.
That weight the guy was lifting, the sound effect was added in post, absolutely, but they always let it reverb out. And using reverb strategically to enhance the emotional impact, that's what you really want to be doing when you're making a video like this, where there is a lot of action happening, but there isn't clear emotion already on the screen. So you want to add in the emotion because they have to show us the intensity, right? If this was a dating show, at the start, you would have seen the drama of the dating show at the start. But because it's a sporting event, we also still need to get a lot of emotion, but we need to see the sports. So using that reverb is just another way to add to that. These guys are completely crushing it.
Size or skill?
Starting with sumo wrestling. On this side,
We have pro sumo wrestler Mahmoud, weighing in at 150 pounds. And standing at 6'8", 300 pounds, we have Joe, a strong
Something that's really important to note about this entire video concept that makes it so good is that contrast draws attention. It's a skill in color theory, it's a skill in graphic design, it's a skill in video editing. Contrast, as in a big person followed by a small person, or a small person followed by a big person, or contrasting colors, such as I think it's like red and the next side of the color scale is blue, if I'm not wrong, maybe, whatever. The contrast is what's creating the attention, and the entire video concept is contrast, but also they're highlighting it really well. And something I mentioned before, but I'm not sure if you're able to catch it, is the attention to detail that this team has. I mean, look at this. In the background of this cutout version of Mahmoud is a full-blown sumo here. That's the space where the sumo wrestlers do their thing, right? But look at what happens as it plays out.
pro sumo wrestler Mahmoud, weighing
They carry us, they zoom the room back out to reveal the spaciousness with a light overhead. They shine down the spotlight onto Mahmoud. And now we're getting to see this card, which I like a lot. It's not overly done. We're getting to see this card with Mahmoud's story, and it's a rule in editing that you want to use the simplest thing you can to get the most emotional information across, or the most of the story impacting people. And this is just a really good way of doing that. I also want to point out the psychological impact it has when an audience is looking at a video that has this level of detail on it. Think about your own life. As you're going through daily life interacting with people and events, the people that put attention to detail in what they do, the businesses that have attention to detail in what they do, there is a feeling of being premium that they give you. So Yeah, this is something to always be sure to do. Of course, you don't want to look overdone, which is why they did this so well. But that attention to detail, from my perspective, you guys rock for doing that.
In at 150 pounds. And standing at 6'8", 300 pounds, we have Joe, a strongman and Marine combat veteran.
If you get pushed out of the circle or your knee touches
A little bit of creative sound design I do not want to miss. Because a lot of editors think that you just need to show the sound, play the sound. You don't show sound, right? They need to play the sound that's accurate to whatever is showing.
if you get pushed out of the circle or your knee
As they do the reveal, which is already a really smart editing choice, meaning the movement is continuing rather than just they showing the room overhead without movement. So as they reveal that to us, they highlight the styrofoam fingers, I think they call that. They highlight those and then they play a samurai sword sound effect, which is phenomenal. That sound effect doesn't belong here, but it works perfectly because it sets the stakes of an already high stake environment. It says, outside of this circle is dangerous. This circle is dangerous. And now we have that in our mind, and this is all building the tension of the episode.
touches the ground, you lose. And that's 2 out of 3 will win $500. You guys ready?
That was
Dead
so
serious
good.
right now. I feel the tension. Knuckles down.
Yo, that sound design, that little speed ramp to get the knuckles down, insane, insane. But here, let's touch on story for a moment because that's what's happening, right? Hijacking the human limbic system.
He touches the ground, you lose. And that's 2 out of 3 will win $500.
What they did here is set the stakes. They're like, whoever win is going to win $500. It's the why to watch, which is also in every story, there is Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And prior to Act 1 is an inciting event. Act 1 is the rising action. Act 2 is where the action continues to climb, and then we come into climaxing. And Act 3 is where we show what change has happened as a result of it. In this video, we're already through the introduction because that's a YouTube thing, right? You must have the introduction and give people a reason why, and then we go into the rising action. But every segment, because this is a show that's going through one sport, two sports, three sports, it's separate segments of the show. They all have individual Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. And that means they all need an individual reason to continue watching. So this $500 we're going to see is the theme of why to continue watching throughout the entire video. At least I assume so. Maybe he changes it up later on, but that's what we're going to see. Now that we're getting into the rising action, but also the event is an action-based event, there needs to be a bit of build before we go directly into what's happening. And we're going to see how the editor chose to do that very skillfully now.
You guys ready?
We start with this. We start with this very intimidating shot of Joe. Joe looks very scary here. This is a big dude. We just saw him deadlift 100 gazillion pounds, right? So we have Joe here looking menacing, and this is the story. This is the emotional undertone that's carrying us throughout what's going to be 16 minutes of video. So please remember that after we go through the setup and the whys, we must get into the emotional undertone so that people are emotionally experiencing what's happening in the video. So the editor chooses to introduce us to the tension we're about to experience by showing Joe's scary face. We then go to Mahmoud, I believe his name is, looking up at him with confidence, but we're also like, is this confidence or is there some doubt there? You know, and that's why this is the emotional story, because now we're starting to really build and rise into things that's going to lead into a climax.
They're dead serious right now. I feel the tension.
And that point where he says, I feel the tension is very, very important because a novice would look at that phrase and think, well, Brandon isn't really part of the action, right? Brandon is just the host. So if we're trying to be as concise as possible when cutting, we'll get rid of that. But that would be a mistake because that's part of the dialogue that's guiding the emotional action of the video. So we're always looking for the dialogue and the short sequence that is going to help us go in order from emotion to story to rhythm to eye tracing and go downward from there. And if that's what we're doing, then that phrase is of the utmost importance, even though Brandon is not actually wrestling. So cutting that out would have been a mistake. So to this editor, again, phenomenal decision.
Knuckles down.
Love that.
Hakioi, come on! Here we go, get him down. Oh! Mahmoud, that's a point for you. You just have to win one more for the 500.
He's a really strong guy.
I feel like for a second you like picked him up there.
Yeah, well, then he capitalized on that.
Yo, that was crazy. All right, gentlemen, round 2.
The sound effects are insane, yo. I love it. I'm really enjoying this. A quick run through.
Yo, that was crazy.
A quick run through here would show us how they managed to make this little section just incredibly engaging.
Come on!
They start with that base collision as they intercept one another. Boom! Again, that's an action event. That's a small moment that they're using creative sound design to amplify, which is the story, by the way, not just the emotional undertone. The emotional undertone is what we were talking about before, the human element of it, and then in the story itself has things unfolding, and those small moments are the things that are unfolding. So you want to highlight those.
Here we go, get him down.
Notice that the camera became additionally shaky at this point. I'm not sure if they added camera shake in post or if the camera guy was really like in a state, but you can see like the camera's shakiness increased exponentially, substantially, and that just adds an authentic feel to it. If this was a professional event, they're not going to shake the camera. But the fact that this is on YouTube, you want to do this. You want it to feel more authentic. You want people to be like, oh, I could see this as if this is actually unfolding. So again, great series of shots, great shot selections, guys, and nice sound effects.
Mahmoud, that's a point for you. You just have to win one more for the 500.
He's a really strong guy.
I feel like for a second you like picked him up there.
Yeah, well, then he capitalized on that.
Yo, that was crazy. All right, gentlemen, round 2. Hakioi! Woo! Come on! Yo, he's picked.
Just to point out the music shift that occurred. As the music shifted, it's gone to something where there is more uncertainty happening now. So let's just listen to it. That drum and that, like, it feels as if like something is about to happen. Anything can happen though. So that's an interesting music selection.
Yo, he's picking him up. Oh my God. That's a point for Joe. Yo, that was like 300 pounds just slammed right on him. Do you need a second to breathe? You're fine? Okay. Final round.
Again, I'm just hammering this home. We just witnessed story. That was really well done.
Up.
This moment where he lands on Mahmoud. It's a big dude, and we hear it in Brandon's with ooh, right? Which is you want to leave that stuff in. But also when he checks, is Mahmoud okay?
Oh my God. That's a point for Joe.
Right there. That's a moment where, like, number one, we like Joe a bit more now. But also, number two, we can understand the gravity of what just happened. There's a big dude. He's rivals with Mahmoud, and he has to check, like, are you okay? So that adds to the tension. That adds to the feeling of the weight Mahmoud had upon him. And we, the audience, get to experience that. So those little moments that people may cut out because it's not specifically sumo wrestling happening, those are the moments that we, the audience, really get to digest the small information that keep us emotionally attached and keep us understanding what's going on. It's essential, actually, to keep the story moving forward.
Yo, that was like 300 pounds just slammed right on him. Do you need a second
That's why they repeated it, you know?
to breathe? You're fine? Okay. Final round. This is gonna decide who wins the $500. Hakioi! No way! Point for Mahmoud.
Very nice.
You win the $500, bro. Great work. Great work.
Sometimes size matters, sometimes it's not everything.
But this is just one of 6 sports that will test size versus skill for $500. Let's
That's an insane attention to detail for these graphics. Are you seeing, like, so they finished sumo, they highlighted sumo, and there is the reflection at the bottom of this. I wonder, is the reflection going to change as they go in? Like, this is,
see if the skilled athletes continue their streak.
yeah, this is really amazing graphics. You got to be using Blender or something because you can see there's a 3D environment. There's a nice graphic, and again, high quality. Oh wow, look at this. They even have like the blue light is reflecting all the way over here. They really put in work. I thought this was like a prism blur, but it isn't. It's a reflection of this blue light. Wow, that's really well done.
Next up is arm wrestling. We have pro arm wrestler Gabriel weighing in at 170 pounds and is trained with some of the best in the world. But is that enough to beat On, a powerlifter who weighs over 300 pounds? What are all of your PRs, just so Gabe knows?
My best squat in a competition was 1,058.
1,058? That's your squat?
Yes. My best bench 705 and my best deadlift is 727.
Jesus, dude, good luck. $500 is on the line. That's 2 out of 3 wins.
That's really good tension building happening there as well. The sound, their sound selection, for my personal preference, like the music isn't what I would choose in every given situation, but I like it. I think it's adequate music. It's decent sound selection. But the sound effects and these little graphics, like this is an arm wrestling table in the background here that most people would skip.
Arm
But-
wrestler Gabriel weighing in at 170 pounds and is trained with
But just seeing that is doing something to my mind where I already place more value on this video. Those little detailed things you guys are good at. Something I would say Brandon Williams has down based on this video and a couple of other videos I saw is small moments. Those small transitional moments in between a story that's just moving things forward very little by little by little. Those things need to be highlighted and emphasized because they're actually beats. And if they're not beats, they're still important moments that are like helping us, the viewer, navigate where we're going. We don't want to be blind, right? And he's really good at finding and highlighting those small moments.
some of the best in the world.
Competition was 1,058.
1,058? That's your squat?
Yes. My best bench 705 and my best deadlift is 727.
Jesus, dude, good luck. $500 is on the line. That's 2 out of 3 wins. Ready? Go! Yup! Yeah! Come on, Gabe! Come on! That's a pin. That's going to Gabe.
Okay, that was a nice sequence. That was a very nice sequence. So they kept focusing in on the faces throughout the sequence and then into the actual action of the hand. There is a rule in editing. I forgot what's the name of it, but it's related to cutting on the action or cutting after the action. The gap between the action the gap between the action ending and when you place the cut, there is a name for that. It's escaping me right now. But that's what determines the rhythm and the pacing of the video that you're doing. So in the video itself, the action itself has pacing. The action itself has momentum. And adding more cuts to that momentum just increases the pacing of the video. I say that to mention that this little point here for a person within my age bracket, I thought this happened a bit too fast.
Come on, Gabe! Come on!
From a pacing perspective, I enjoy watching arm wrestling. I would have liked to have had like, you know, a little drawn out point. I get that it's kind of boring, you know, because it's two guys going at it, but I enjoy watching arm wrestling. And I would have liked to see a little moment of these two guys interlocked and without cutting immediately, seeing that tension of them in that conflict, if you want to call it that. So that's the only thing about this little sequence that I was yeah, I was a bit kind of confused just at how many things were happening. But again, if they're cutting for a younger audience, maybe this is what you have to. Sometimes you have to do that. You know, if you're watching the videos that young kids are watching on YouTube, then you understand you need to keep it happening, things happening all of the time. And this may just be a situation where the editor chose that as the best option.
Come on, Gabe! Come on! That's a pin. That's going to Gabe. You got to win these next two if you want the 500. Ready, go! Let's go! Let's go! Come on, Owen! You got that! You got that! You got that! Come on, Owen! Oh, slip!
That was close. That's why you gave it away.
Oh, wow. Okay, so this is the last thing I'm going to comment on before I end for today. Here we have
Oh, slip!
a facial expression that's telling us what's going on inside of Owen's head. Owen does not think that this guy, Brandon, I believe his name is, not Brandon, the arm wrestling guy, right? Owen is telling us with its facial expression, this arm wrestling guy pulled a sneaky loo. He did something tricky, and he would have got him. He would have won if the arm wrestling guy, professional, didn't do whatever Owen thinks he did. And that moment is communicating the story to us. But then we get to go over to what this dude, Duncan, I think his name is Duncan. I'm just calling random names at this point, but
That was close.
we go over to Duncan and see Duncan's expression, and we have that image in our head of Owen not trusting him, looking at him.
That's why you gave it away.
And now Owen confirms what we were thinking he said, which is, oh, it was close. I would have got him. That's why he gave it away. And that's one of those moments where we got to see the importance of those micro expressions. So when I'm cutting footage, what I'm generally looking for is the human expression. Because if you walk into a room, you can almost immediately tell what people are thinking based on their body language. You can tell their not the actual thoughts they're having, but their emotional state. And in footage, that's one of those things that you want to be paying attention to look for. But I'm gonna log out with that. Usually I'm streaming Monday to Saturday between midnight 30, I don't know how to say that, 00:30 Eastern time or 2:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to lock in with your boy. Take care.